Dice Tower Tonight, Episode 6.
The story of Eric. I forgot what the theme was.
Welcome to Dice Tower Tonight, a video cast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On tonight's show, Tom and I play show and tell with a few recent games. We look back at how I conned Tom into getting me on the Dice Tower podcast, and then we take your questions live. I'm Eric Summerer, and here's your host, the Adam Sandler of board gaming, Tom Vasel.
That's the worst introduction yet. What does that even mean?
Eat turkey. Love to eat turkey. This is like the song, the Thanksgiving song. That song's really old at this point, but it's really good.
I don't know if I like that one. Hey, folks, welcome to this. If you're watching us on YouTube, you may be watching live, in which case we may talk about your comments, but we may not.
No promises.
So this is a week and a half, because this is the week of the Dice Tower Cruise, or at least a week of preparing for Dice Tower Cruise.
Yeah.
The week of the Dice Tower Cruise is next week. So next week, there's nothing. No podcast, no videos, no Dice Tower Tonight, nothing. Actually, there may be a couple videos, but probably not many.
So it's a vacation.
Yes, we're hosting the cruise. So it's like 60% vacation.
Yeah.
I have stuff to do on there, too.
I mean, we're the evening entertainment on board, at least for some of the days.
Josh says if Adam... No, I'm going to be entertainment, hopefully, the whole time.
Okay.
Teaching games and getting things going.
It's true.
Anyway, Josh says if I'm Adam Sandler, that makes you Kevin James.
Oh, great. I'm not sure how I like that.
Well, you know what? You did ask for this time. All right, so let's get started here, folks. The way these work is we will talk about a few games back and forth. I'm going to let Eric go first, and then me, and we'll do 3 games each. Then we'll talk about the topic of the week, and then we will answer your questions. Again, we may or may not talk about some of your comments live. We'll have to wait and see. So,
yeah,
Eric,
they better be good.
And this time I remembered to bring games, so I'm not grabbing games off my kid's shelf to talk about.
Good. This is one I picked up at PAX. It's called Dice of Crowns. It comes
Terrible
in
name.
Tiny little, well, yeah. It comes in an Altoid-sized tin here. It's a dice game, and it comes with a bunch of little dice with symbols on them, and then various tokens, plastic tokens, in 2 different types. And they designed the game so you could play it virtually anywhere. They even printed the rules on tear-proof paper, which is kind of a cool concept. It's like the guy showed me. He tried to rip it and couldn't. So that's neat.
I feel like now that you said that, I'm going to get this and I'm going to try to rip it, and it's going to rip.
You're going to succeed.
Maybe.
So the object of the game is to get 3 crown tokens. These are the little copper-colored tokens. If you get 3 of those, you win. And there's 2 ways to acquire a token. That is either to get 3 of the crown symbol on your turn, or 5 of the skull symbol on your turn.
Is this a Yahtzee thing?
It's yes, but not quite the same way. You can re-roll as much as you're able to until you bust, because there's also the dagger symbol. You get 3 of those and your turn's over. So you roll all the dice available, and you have to keep all of the daggers, obviously, but you also have to keep all of the crowns. You have to set those aside, and then you may re-roll other ones. But also, 2 of the symbols on the 6 sides are these scrolls. Scrolls need to be given to your opponents. So you hand those out to other players. They immediately need to roll them. If they are another scroll, they hand it back to you. If it's a skull, they hand it back to you. But if it's a crown, they get to keep it and use it on their turn. If it's a dagger, they get to give it to whoever they want, and now that's a dagger for them. So it's a little bit of a catch-the-leader mechanism, because now they might stab you, or they might stab somebody else at the table, making it harder for them to score on their turn.
How many dice are in this box?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 7. 7 dice. So there might not be
dice to other people. I don't get it.
So some of the dice might already be locked in front of other players when it's time for you to roll.
I already dislike that. Wow, that's a bad mechanism. You're saying by the time it's my turn, because of a stupid roll you made, Billy has all the dice?
Probably. Well, maybe some of them. I guess it's possible. It's a sort of a 2-tiered thing in order to give the dice to other people. But it's possible. You can also turn in some of the skulls for tokens, which is an optional rule that I totally recommend playing with. That lets you re-roll one of your dice, even one of those locked dice, like a dagger, that can prevent you from losing on your turn. If you get 3 daggers, you're not going to earn any tokens. But if you score either a fate token or a crown token, that ends your turn and you pass the dice. It's fast. It's because of the interaction with the other players, it feels different from a lot of these styles of games with the dice rolling, trying to get symbols and combinations therein. I appreciated that it felt different than those other games. I liked it.
You always have these ways of saying things like, well, good effort, game.
I liked it. I want to try it some more. I'm probably going to bring this on the cruise with me as a quick filler game.
I'll have to try it, but it sounds awful.
I'm not as wary of that rule. It didn't come up that tons of dice were locked up. I mean, maybe
there isn't tons of dice. That's the thing.
But you still have 5 dice to roll if 2 are locked up. And if you're only playing with 5 people, 4 people, they'll unlock pretty quickly. I don't think it's as big a deal as you're making it out to be. I liked it. Dice of Crowns.
All right. Well, I'm gonna do an old game this week anyway, because I want to. Wooly Bully. You ever played this game? This game I'm talking about.
I have played Wooly Bully. In fact, my wife's Board Game Geek avatar is a Wooly Bully tile.
Well, here's the deal. When Wooly Bully, when I first played it, I was like, oh, this is kind of a Carcassonne ripoff. But the fact is that Wooly Bully was designed before Carcassonne. And for the magic and vagaries of board game industry, Carcassonne, I believe, was published slightly first and took off, and Wooly Bully never did, which is unfortunate. Carcassonne is a better game. But Wooly Bully is an interesting game because it has tiles that you're laying down, have sheep on them, and you are secretly one of the colors. So you're either yellow, red, black, or blue, and you can see that they cared about color blindness a long time ago before it was cool.
Yeah.
And you're putting these tiles together, and you are trying to form a pen of the biggest sheep of your color. That's how you win the game, without wolves in it, because that's not good. And there's shepherds, and also if you match different sides of the tiles, you get to draw more tiles, so you might help someone else out just so you have more tiles in the future. Also, all the tiles are double-sided, which makes things interesting because you have a hand of tiles, and this is actually 6 tiles, not 3, because you can do both sides.
Right.
I like the artwork of it. I like the simplicity of it. It's pretty easy, maybe halfway through, to know what color everyone is. I mean, Eric's not going to be making a big pen of black just for the fun of it, if he's not black.
Right.
I like the game, enough to where I hunted it down and got a copy of it even now, just because I want to talk about it. This is an Asmodee game, actually. This was back when Asmodee was a very small company.
Wow.
Hard to believe now. 1999, so 18 years ago. And actually, the production value on this, if you did not know this was an old game I told you, you would assume this just came out. It's sharp looking. The art is good. The tiles are cool. So it's a pretty cool game. If you ever come across it, and you might, I recommend it. Again, not as good as Carcassonne, because Carcassonne offered you some more choices, I think. But overall, I like Wooly Bully.
Yeah, it's cute. The only problem I had with it is that it's a little unwieldy with the double-sided tiles. You have to almost hold them in your hand so you can flip them like a Rolodex to be able to look at both sides of all the tiles. It was just a little tricky to
that's true.
To figure out what your options were.
They should have just put more tiles in the game and made them one-sided.
Yes, I guess that's probably the better option. It's still very cute and a nice variant on the tile laying concept. I don't remember if it's still in my collection though. We had it. I don't think I traded it away, but
this one says Eric Summerer on the box.
Really?
So.
Okay, then that's my copy. All right, next up is a party game from Nauvoo Games. This is called Crosstalk. Tom knows I picked this up at PAX because they were selling it at a pretty good price over there. This is a party game that my son and I played at ConCon or FallCon, and my son was just totally enamored with it. He's like, Dad, we need this game. We got to get this game. So, grabbed it, and we played it at our family game day after Thanksgiving on this past Friday. Brought it out, and it was quite a hit. Made a splash, drew a crowd. Crosstalk is a game that's similar. It shares some DNA with Password. There are two teams, a blue team and a black team, and they are trying to get their teams to guess one word. Both teams are trying to guess the same word or phrase. And the clue givers have looked at this word, and they each get to give a secret clue to their respective teams. They write it down on a whiteboard, hand it off to their respective teams, and then one team gives a public clue. It's actually written down here on this board. Say the black team, I would write down a clue here on the first slot, but then the blue team gets to guess first. And then if they don't get the word, then the blue team gives a clue, and then the black team gets to guess. So you have to give a clue that is helpful to your team and connects to your secret clue, but doesn't give so much information to the other team that they're able to guess it immediately. But you don't know what their private clue was, so you may be falling right into their hands with the clue that you give. And we had all sorts of varying outcomes in trying to be tricky in this game. Sometimes we thought we were giving an awesome clue. Let's see, what was it? Sound of Music. And I put Edelweiss as my secret clue. I'm like, okay, that's nice and specific. That they're not going to, the other team's not going to know I wrote that. And then I wrote Hills as my clue, and the other team had written like musical or something. So they immediately went, the hills are alive, Sound of Music, and they knew it. And I felt like an idiot. Anyway, I really enjoy Crosstalk. I think this is going to see some play time in my family for sure. Again, like I said, it drew a crowd. My son, for whatever reason, is all about this game. He was running around saying it was the best game ever. I'm not going to say that, but I am going to say it's a really fun family party game, Crosstalk.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's good, but it's a little too clever for its own good sometimes. It's a little... I feel like there's one too many rules.
Really?
Like this game was like on the verge of being this big breakout type game, I feel, like Codenames and something like that. Mm-hmm. But I feel it's missing that one thing. I think there's just too many... There's... Not so much in the main game, but those things where you can say this, but not this, and this. It's just there's a little much with that.
There's an alternate clue board that you can use for the advanced game. I have not used it.
See, I think that board is better. It's just a little more involved.
Yeah, it allows you to. It has like a grid. I should show you. It has a grid listing all of the clues and also the secret clue, and you can once per round, like, draw symbols all over this thing. Let's see. Here we go. So check that out. So it lists all of the clues, all the public, private clues, the guesses, and the secret clue as well. And then there's all these symbols at the bottom that you can say, combine these two clues. Opposite, synonym, partial, ignore this clue. They're leading you astray, basically. And so the clue giver can write all over this thing one time, hand it secretly to their team, and give them extra information, which could have helped us a lot, but it's
kind of cool because you can say ignore clue 1 or the opposite of clue 1, and then give a really weird clue, and the other team's like, what?
Yeah.
But it adds enough that I like it a lot, but I feel like it's too much for your general person.
Yeah, well, you can easily not do it. I mean, that's much more of an advance.
To me is a little too just blah. I think it needs an extra oomph, but I don't know. I like the game. I know why it's on discount.
Okay. I still liked it. Crosstalk.
That's okay. I'm not. Eric Summerer says, thank you guys for all that you do to keep me entertained throughout my workday every day.
You're welcome.
Also, your name is good, said Eric in his head. I also got a game here at PAX called Dice Throne. Oddly enough, Eric's first game was called what? Throne of Dice?
Dice of Crowns.
Oh, Dice of Crowns. Well, here's the Dice Throne. You can, when you sit on this throne, you can wear the Dice of Crowns. So this game, each person's going to get a character in this game. And what's interesting about the characters in this game is you get your own little tray. So you get this tray, you get your own custom dice. The dice are custom. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on each die, but there's also symbols, and the symbols are different per character. You have 2 counters. One keeps track of your combat points, and one keeps track of your health. When your health's gone, you lose. You also have a specific set of cards that you'll be playing. These cards are going to cost a certain amount of combat points to play. You can see this one here costs 0. This one also costs 0. This one costs 1. And you can play these at different times. The game, you're going to pick one of the 6 heroes in the box, or 6 heroes in the box. And the game, and then you also have the sheet here. This sheet is going to tell you all the special abilities you have. And that's not the only sheet you have. You also have this big board here. So this is the Moon Elves board. And so if you look at the Moon Elf, on my turn, I'm going to roll dice. And it's kind of like Yahtzee. You roll them, and then you can roll them 2 more times. And if you roll any of these combos that are on this board, that's how much damage you'll do to your opponent. So like if I roll 5 bows, I will do 7 damage to my opponent.
Okay.
Because of my long bow. For that, or I can maybe go for the combat shot at the bottom. Each thing will do different things different, and then you each have your own defensive thing. Now, as the game goes by, though, some of these cards that you're playing are going to be different actions. So she might play volley, which you play only after attacking the opponent, roll 5 dice, add 1 times the number of bows that you've just rolled to the total damage. But when I go through all the different the different cards, she might play longbow 2, and this goes on top of her longbow and makes it better. You can see it does 8 damage down here, and also has a special ability, which says on 4 of a kind, you also do entangle to your opponent, which is like a negative status effect. So the game is really, it's like a 2-player game, although you can play with more than 2-player games. You can, attack each other person. There's rules for who you attack, but I'm rolling dice, I attack you, then you roll defensively. I play cards, you play cards. And so each person has different status effects that they can do. They each have a very different play style, but not dramatically different. You're, fighting each other and rolling different combinations. It's fairly light for all that, that it looks fairly complex. I have a sheet with the status effects. I have a sheet where I put the cards. I have these dice and cards to play. It's still fairly light, but it works well. It's a nice little combat game. There's a lot of these combat games out there right now, but this one works. The production value is extremely stellar. So just thought I would mention that one. Dice Throne.
All right, let's finish up with one of the Essen acquisitions. This is called Tribes. Check out that cover. I mean, look at that. Exciting, right? It's from Rustan Håkansson, who designed Nations and Nations the Dice game. It's from a company called Tea Time Productions, and I've never heard of anything they've produced before, which might explain the somewhat stark graphic design on the back of the box. It's really not good, and it doesn't even draw you in very well. But the designer is really what made me interested in this one.
That's true. Nations Nations, a dice game especially, is very good.
Yes, I do like them. I do like the dice game, I think, a little bit better. But this is a game about early civilizations and technologies. You have a bunch of map tiles. And again, this is the graphic design we're dealing with here. You got symbols on all the different map tiles. It's very utilitarian. Where's the one with the horse? The horse is particularly stark. I can't find the horse. They depict different resources: horses, sheep, gold. There's one that's like incense, which is like ceremonial burial. And you'll use these. You put huts on these hexes, and you are trying to get the resources you need to acquire technology. Like, those are not technology. That's not technology either. So this particular technology requires, I can't see that through the bag. That doesn't work. It requires 1 horse.
Are you new at this video thing here?
Yes. This is one of those early, I didn't prep this one. I just sort of opened the box. So this one requires you to have a hut on the horse symbol on your arrangement. You might not have a horse right away. You might need to explore hexes in order to find a horse. But if you have a horse, you can claim one of the boxes on this technology, and now you know how to make traps. And that advances your strength. In this case, you've got strength, you've got movement, you've got a growth ability. And so then when you take a growth action, you grow at the rate that your civilization has advanced in that particular type. Now, what I'm trying to dig at here is the board. I'm just going to dump it out. Component drop. There we go. And so you've got the board, which depicts the different technologies.
That board's so bad.
It's not great. But so you've got the early technologies, and then there are arrowheads that lead to the better technologies, which then lead to the upper technologies. And those will cost 2 on the second level and 3 symbols to acquire those particular techs. Those are all worth points, and it is ultimately a race to a certain number of points.
Double-sided?
It is double-sided. So there's a different hierarchy on the B side, and different assortment, different arrangement of the tiles, so that you add some variety. Plus, I think only about half of the tiles come out in a given game. You'll bring out 5 of them, and there are 10 silver tiles or bronze tiles. So there's a lot of variety in here. There's also events that show up. I didn't even explain the main mechanism here. The actions you choose come out on a row along the side of the board. So you've got that growth action, that explore action. If you want to explore, but there are 2 tiles below that, you have to pay seashells, the currency of the game, to pass over what you don't want to do, and then trigger the thing you do want to do. It's a common mechanism, something you'll see in a lot of games. But sometimes events will show up, and it might be like volcano, lose 2 points if you're the weakest. And if you're the weakest and the volcano's at the bottom, you're going to have to pay to pass that event. So it doesn't trigger on your turn, because it only triggers for the player whose turn it is. There are also some attack tiles that may say, take huts away based on your strength. So I may want to spend in order to trigger that event on my turn, so that my opponent doesn't do the same thing to me later on. But you've spent your entire action doing that event rather than one of the other actions. I was turned off by the graphic design for sure. It's not unusable. It's clear. Everything is totally functional, but it just lacks a little bit of polish. Maybe a lot of polish. But that variety of actions, the variations, has me wanting to play this again. I was a little turned off by the fact that there's no synergy. Like a particular path up that tree doesn't necessarily follow the same resources. Like you may follow the path of 2 sheep up in the middle row, and then the top row is going to be 3 horses, and you have no horses on your board at all. But you can only build off of the text that you've already researched. You can, however, exhaust hexes in order to cover the resources you don't have. So if I don't have a 3rd horse, I can exhaust any hex that I have a HUD on. Then I no longer get anything from that hex, but I've been able to use that as a horse. And once all of the tiles, because some of the tiles start out face down on that big board, once you know what they all are, you can plan a little better about what I'm allowed to exhaust without hurting my chances for the future. But until all those tiles are turned up, maybe you're missing out on a good scoring opportunity by exhausting hexes. I think there's certainly possibilities here. It plays very quickly. This is maybe a 45-minute, 60-minute game at the most. It moves fast. Turns move fast.
You need to show you the game or something so people know what you're talking about.
Oh, all right. I dumped all the components into the lid. Let me dump them back.
Yeah, see, you're not. I don't know if it's the game design or you. I'm gonna go with you, but you're not making it sound interesting. That box looks uninteresting. I call it this one is so out of print. Out of print in six months.
I do think the design, the graphic design and production are probably going to hurt this a lot. I appreciated the speed though that it moved. Turns were super fast.
Yeah, but there's lots of games with super fast turns.
Well, yeah, but not ones that are about tech trees and civilizations. It's one. This is usually an epic theme.
Rated out of 10.
6 to 7 right now.
That's a 6.5.
Okay. Yeah, somewhere in the middle. If you could come up with a value between 6 and 7, that's where I'd put it.
I can come up with a value. All right.
That's Tribe's early civilization from Tea Time production.
Let's continue with the boxes that are so exciting.
Ooh, Sidereal Confluence.
And okay, so it's actually said sidereal. It's not side reel.
I actually had to narrate that word, and I said sidereal, and I was corrected. So I know it's sidereal.
All right. I don't know what I think about this game as a final opinion. I'll start off with that. because this is one of the most unique games I've ever played. It is a game that fascinates me to no end, but I'm not sure if I'm going to end up liking it or not. I need to play it more. In this game, the theme of, and I'll put the button right there so people can see it. Okay.
There you go.
The theme of this game is it's the end of, I don't know if it's the end of a war or something. Well, actually, the rule book can tell us. All right. Well, it doesn't actually, I don't know what the history is. Okay, but 9 species are coming together, not to wage war or bicker, but they're going to build a single joint society where every species is the equal of each other. And every new innovation is shared amongst others. Except they didn't really, they want to be first among equals. So whatever.
4 legs good, 2 legs better.
Something like that. So this game, you are one of these races. So you can be the Fadaran, and I know how to pronounce these because it tells you on here.
Nice. That's helpful.
Conclave. We have the Zeth Anacracy, which I'll never play with, and I won't play any game with these guys in.
Okay.
That's because they're very, very take that. The rest of the game is not. And the rules even kind of warn you about it. They're like, if you don't really like that kind of, someone attacking other people, don't play with us. I'm like, there's 9 races, easy enough. All right, pick from these 8.
Okay.
Although the game does go to 9. And, okay, so this is the Kittriddle. That would not have been how I pronounced that name. So anyway, you pick these. This gives you kind of a history of your species and a couple special abilities. This is not that necessary. There's a few maybe special... There's a few maybe special rules that each one has. But what really matters is you're going to be getting a bunch of cards like this. All right? And those cards are so that you can mess with components like this. Yes, there are cubes in this game. In fact, this is your little shield here. If you notice, the purple one here, this one's pretty important because that is victory points. So you can see 1 victory point is worth 3 ships, or it's equal to about one of those octagons, or it's equal to 2 of the yellow or black blocks, or 3 of the brown, green, or white blocks. This game is literally a turn cubes into other cubes type of game.
Okay.
And so I might start with the Xenocultural. I don't think I actually start with this, but let me find one that I might start with. Okay, let's say I'm playing the Eniet. This one's pretty simple. It lets you change 3 octagons into 5 octagons. Someone else might have a card here that changes 4 yellow cubes into an octagon, a white cube, a brown cube, a black cube, and 2 victory points.
Wow.
Yeah, right. So that's how everyone has these machines, and everyone has goods. And during each round, at the beginning of each round, there's this trading phase, which is completely open. Now, that's why it's really important that they give you this. It tells you kind of the relative value of everything. It also tells you what it means, too.
Yeah.
Ultratech spaceship. Yeah, no one calls them that. Okay. And you're trading these back and forth, but you can even trade cards. Like this, if I'm the Eniet here, this 3 to 5, that's a pretty good deal, right? You start with 3 octagons. Now you have 5 octagons.
Yeah.
But it says here on this card, I can't use this card. So I can trade this card to you, Eric. So that you can use it. So there's this fascinating, I'll give you this card, I'll give you these cubes, I'll give you these ships, and you're going around and doing all this stuff. And you can even upgrade cards sometimes. So if I upgrade this card, now it changes 3 into 3 plus 3 victory points, which is pretty good.
Okay.
And so you're constantly looking at all the cards around the table. So I played this only so far with 3 players. It says on the box it says 4 to 9. But inside the game, there's definitely ways to play with 3. I don't know why the box says 4 to 9.
Okay.
So we tested it with 3. So that's why I'm kind of like not reviewing it here.
Right.
We tested it. With 9, with 3, we took up almost a whole 6-foot table because there's just big card tableaus laid everywhere. And we could have fit a 4th player in, but with 9, I'm not even sure. I'm like really tempted to bring this on the cruise just to get together with a group of people and do this big trading thing around because it's really kind of fascinating. I'm like, I need a yellow cube. This machine needs 5 yellow cubes. Run, I need a yellow cube. Can you give me a yellow cube? And Eric's like, I'm not going to use a yellow cube. I don't have any. And Mandy might have a yellow cube, but she's demanding this machine. I'm not using this machine anyway, so I give it to her. Then there's tech cards. And when you build a tech card, like this one here is Gravitational Topologists. When you build a tech card, and this one here costs 12 brown cubes or 12 green cubes. If so, you get some points. After you build it, you can use it right away. You can use this machine type thing.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of a turn, you share your technology with everybody. There's no secret technologies in this game. Everybody gets it. So they all get the technology. Then you get what's called a sharing bonus. You get some points for sharing it with everybody else. A considerable amount of points. But now everyone else has that tech, and they can use that tech for their own machines. And many of the different machines use certain techs to pump up to the other side. Oh, this game is such a, I don't even know what because each race plays differently. So I was playing the ENIAC, and the ENIAC have the best machines probably of anybody, but most of them they can't use. So you're forced to trade with other people. The rules give complexity. So they gave this one a complexity of 5. They said it needs kind of a pushy trading type person to do it. You know, not a problem. Although we found that probably in a 3-player game, not as useful.
Okay.
Because there's fewer people to trade with, right?
Right. Yeah.
Then someone else was playing with one where they could build planets, because there's planets in this game too that will produce resources every turn. So one was building these planets and sending them off to other people. And then another player had a ability where they could build these really huge cars that did stuff, but they needed to like blow planets up and things to do that. You know, so they had to get rid of a lot of resources. And then there's one there's a take that one I mentioned. There's one that builds wild cubes that they can trade with people, which people would go gaga over for. You have these spaceships. They're not used for attacking. At the end of each round, they're used for a bidding phase, a blind bidding phase to get more planets and more technologies that you can build. Wow, the whole thing comes together in a really unique. This game is so different. I'm definitely leaning towards me liking the game.
Okay.
I like the really open trading, but it's open trading with a point. You need more stuff. So you're sitting there and you're looking, okay, I want to run that machine, but the amount of deals, in fact, the rule book says you might want to put like a 10-minute limit on the deal making phase. If you do that, the game will come to about 2 hours. I think there's like 8 or 9 rounds, maybe 6 or 7.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. But, you know, if you do that, you know, that's not bad. But you might want to do that, especially more players, because you're sitting there trying to figure out, okay, I got a yellow and a black cube left over. What do I do with those? I'll trade you. No. Well, the game allows 3-way trades. So you can say, I'll trade with you if you give that to him and I get this. Or maybe I can't use these cubes for anything, but I can get a machine from you. I'm so fascinated by it because at its core, it's a game you would like.
Okay.
Change cubes and other cubes for no reason at all. Okay. But on the other hand, then it's this big trading thing. And I know someone just said 2 hours of cube trading. Oh my. I understand that. But it's just fascinating, right? I'm starting with this little pile of stuff, and I'm going to figure out how to make it into a bigger pile of stuff. And there's so many different ways to get there. And the asymmetricalness of this is unbelievable. Maybe I will bring this on the cruise. Because if there's anywhere I can get 9 players to play.
Yeah.
8, because I'm not playing with the one faction. So 8 players to play. And we can use one of those big round tables in the food hall.
There you go.
It's fascinating.
I mean, I'm fascinated by the concept, but I'm actually a little worried about the whole open trading. That sort of gives me the jitters. That's not really my style of game. The open negotiation.
You can't really get like burned by. Well, I guess you could if you're like dumb, but because the game tells you 3 of the small cubes equals 2 of the larger cubes, which equals 1 of the octagon, you can't really say this is not equal to. You know, like there might be that one guy like, come on, I'm giving you a good deal. I'm going to give you 6 cubes, and you give me 40. You know, you're not going to have a lot of that because you can just say, no, it's not worth the same amount of points.
Right.
But it is hard to see maybe the end, because all your stuff is worth points at the end of the game. All those cubes and stuff, they're worth half of their value at the end of the game.
Okay.
Points is the only thing that's worth full value. So points is technically a resource. It's the most valuable resource.
Right.
This game's just fascinating me. I don't know what I'm just saying. I'm bringing it on the cruise.
Okay.
Right? I'm finding enough people to play this. We're going to play this.
I'd love to give it a whirl.
I'm just curious to see if it will work. Like I said, I'm going to need a big table. I'm going to have to play with 8 players, but I definitely want to play with at least 5.
Right.
I'm just curious to see how the whole thing works. Of course, that means I'm going to have to sort it out.
Because you did just drop it on the floor.
Well, no, it's not that. It's just after the first play of a game, I always put it in a box so we do the component drop right after that. We don't have to sort it out. This game was a bear to sort out. I may have made a mistake.
Ah, well, all right. Well, if you get 8 players, you can get everyone to help.
Okay, so let's talk about Eric briefly.
Okay.
So we pick a topic each week. By we, I mean I just made one up like 2 hours before we did this because, again, I'm putting so much work into the cruise. As soon as the cruise is over, no, because then I'm working on a Kickstarter. We're never done here.
Right.
But
we also have our end of year episodes for the podcast we need to put together with our favorites of the year. I haven't even thought about that stuff yet.
Oh yeah, I got my top 10 set actually in my head. But there's still the possibility, right? There's still some pretty big games I haven't played, which are all coming on the cruise. There's a chance that some games will get played that will knock these other games out. But it has been a phenomenal year. Anyway, so Eric.
Yes.
Someone said Eric is awesome.
Oh,
let's not lie to start this off here. All right. So anyhow, if you you joined the Dice Tower in what year?
2006. So the podcast was about a year old when I started doing stuff. I was a listener. I was hearing you and Joe Stedman doing the show, and then later you and Sam, and just enjoying the show as a fan. And I was at that time newly full-time voice acting. I had left the radio station I was at in 2004. And had been working small, odd jobs, but was still relatively idle at home in the home studio in 2006. And I entered a contest with you, and it was just simply emailing you at your email address. And at the bottom of the contest entry, I said, P.S. I am a voice actor. I have an audio studio. If you need help with anything, let me know. And you jumped at the chance. I imagined that like a little light bulb went off. You said free labor, woohoo! And asked me to start doing some comedy bits for the podcast and fake sponsor segments. So you wanted a show to be sponsored by like Victory Points or a show to be sponsored by the little wooden sticks.
To be fair, that was your idea.
Are you sure? I don't think it was my idea. I think what I did with it was my idea. But you said you wanted to have the show sponsored by little wooden sticks, and I just ran with that concept. And that was back in, I went back and looked at the computer, October 3rd, 2006 is when my first segment showed up on the Dice Tower. Tom seems enamored with something.
He's well, I'm gonna go back in time and find this. So, when you... Do you remember what you thought? I'm trying to remember what made me. Okay, this is gonna sound negative. I don't mean to be negative at all. It's always a good segue, right? But do you remember? I'm trying to remember why I picked you to be the co-host. In a sense, back then. I mean, now it makes perfect sense, right? But Sam was leaving, and I was like, who's gonna be my co-host? I'm looking for someone, and you were the voice actor. And I was like, well, he has a really good voice, and we seem to get along, really well and stuff. And so that's what made me pick that.
Well, I think at that point, I was more involved than just doing small little segments. I think I was doing an intro and outro to every episode at that point. I don't think I was editing the whole show, but I was doing a good amount of pre-production for every episode. So I was relatively involved in the inner workings of the show, the week-by-week production. And so it seemed like I was the most logical choice to step up to the co-host. At least that was the impression I got. But I was still surprised when you asked. You told me Sam was leaving and you wanted me to step up, and I freaked out. I did not think I would be able to step up into those shoes.
Yeah, I found the email. It took me a while, but I found it.
Oh,
the one the contest entry. It was finding the logo for Ninja Galaxy.
Yes.
That was not worth your time.
I was trying to win Ninja Galaxy. Well, at the time, it was colorful and looked cute.
And he said, thanks for a fantastic podcast. If you ever run into a need for additional voice work, let me know. And then I said he can do that. Then you said you do mostly boring stuff. You sent me things. I said you sounded good. You said you didn't ask for payment. And I said, good, because I couldn't afford you. That's what. And you're right. It was me. Okay. This show is sponsored by the number 1.
Yep. That was the initial go. And so we had several, like every week we'd have a different sponsor. I found one that was like a company that would turn every game of yours into a train game. We need to play that because that was a fun one.
And then Eric did some top 10s for us because I asked him to.
Yes. You
So
wanted to replace the iconic top 10, the number 1 guy, which is not me. That predates my involvement in the show. But you said, I'm sick of that guy, and you wanted to try something new. So I made ones that were like Muppet voices. I did one with percussion sounds. I did one that sounded like me yelling off of a cliff. Number 10, 10, 10. People
so Sam made fun of these, and then he had to immediately apologize to Eric. That's a second email here. So Sam said he just liked the old guy better, and Eric says he likes the old guy better too. And I said, you know what? I'm in charge, so too bad I like Eric's top 10s. And then, of course, I went out of that. Okay, let's look at Eric's third email.
Ooh. Hopefully it's not like some sort of argument we had way back then.
Nope. Then I said we were moving from board game news to fun again games.
Ah, yes.
And then I said I have a whole bunch of stuff for Eric to do. And then I just started sending Eric stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, the one that I remember was we had a Fun Again Games contest. That it was a holiday contest, and we just decided to blow it all out on like 3 different winners. We had a first, second, and third place winner, and it was like 50 games for the first place winner, and I had to read them all, and then there was either a mistake or you added something, and I had to read them all again. And that was fun. That was very early on.
Well, this is interesting here. So when did you said you joined at 6, but I think okay, when did you become?
I became co-host in 2009. August 2009.
All right.
So I've been doing that's almost 3 years of work on the show before becoming co-host.
I'm seeing if I can find the email when I asked you to be the co-host.
Ooh.
And then he would said no.
Well, it would have been before Origins in 2009 because that's when we announced it was going to happen.
Did we? That's right, because we went and did that show with everybody.
We did a forum with where we met Cody and John for the first time, and the guys from the Spiel. That was my first major convention too. I got my first major convention and meeting you for the first time. We roomed together and announced that I was going to be co-host. That was a very high pressure situation for me. I'm glad it went well, but I was very nervous.
I wonder if I talked to you about this on the phone because I'm not seeing an email here.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah, it probably happened.
Sounds like a phone conversation.
It does sound like a phone conversation. All right, we'll pretend I talked about that on the phone. Yeah, it was an interesting thing. You know, I often get emails from people who say, "How can I help?" And I always tell people that that's cool and I appreciate it, but more of it's I can do this. And that's what Eric did. He said, I can do voice work. And I said, can you do this? And he said, yes. And he started doing it.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's more useful to people. And someone says, I want to be involved with Dice Tower. I'm like, great. What do you mean by that? Well, what do you need? Well, I need someone to clean the bathroom, but you can't do that. Right. So what are your skills and things? And sometimes it works out. I mean, almost everybody involved in the Dice Tower started with the Dice Tower in some kind of support role and moved up. The only exception is probably Sam, because I knew him for a long time.
Right.
But other than Sam, everybody just came in and did things. You know, they said, I want to do this, and they started doing something small. And a lot of people who did small stuff stopped doing it. When I look at these old emails with Eric, and, you know, I look at the contributors that we had back for the shows back then, almost none of, well, I shouldn't say almost, none of them are on the show anymore. Not a single one of them. Moritz lasted the longest. Then Jeff is the only one on the show now, but we got people on the Board Game Breakfast. You know, there's still people all around, and people come and go, and sometimes I look at someone and go, I haven't thought about that person in years, but they used to be part of the Dice Tower.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems bad, but there's so many people who are involved. So, Yeah, I know our first couple episodes were not, it took us a while to get to kind of to working back and forth
Well, yeah,
type
I mean, we
thing.
were moving from two guys in the same room with you and Sam and you and Joe to having to work over Skype, which was an interesting learning curve. We had to learn to appreciate each other's cadences and when to anticipate that we were about to stop talking, and just get used to each other. And I needed to learn how much I could rib you, and how much we could.
The answer to that is as much as you want.
Yeah. Well, but at first, this was a new gig. I wanted to live up to the show that I had enjoyed listening to, and to be worthy of the position. And so I was much more worried about doing the job than I was about having fun doing it. And I think the ribbing comes from having fun doing it. Now it's I don't I just drop stuff on the floor and I just rib you as much as possible.
Right. I'm affecting you. And you're making me look at a game like this, which is actually a Euro game with negotiation. Hang on, I need to kick someone off the thing. Okay.
Oh no, someone's being mean.
Yeah. No problem. I got it. Okay, so now let's take your questions. So if anyone here has any questions for me and or Eric, mostly for Eric, because I just did a Q&A like 5 hours ago.
Really?
So
They got all the questions out at that point.
well, no, we never answer all the questions, and we never will. But if you have any questions for Eric or myself or both of us, if you have anything specifically about the cruise, we won't answer every question. We'll answer some of the questions. So go ahead and ask them.
I know I am having trouble concentrating this week, knowing that the cruise is coming up. Like it.
Yeah, but you know how hard
very
it was for me.
distracting.
We went on the ship today.
You went on the ship today?
Well, we had to go. We dropped off a pile of games because I have a ton of games, and we had to do some inspections and look at the rooms where we're playing and everything like that. And I was like, I'm gonna call Lar. Like, Lar, I'll see you when you get on the cruise ship. That would be really bad for my marriage, like really bad.
So the ship was actually in port today and left on its voyage, and it will be back on Saturday, which is when we actually
right. It's leaving Monday,
boat.
coming back Saturday. So then we come Saturday, come back Thursday.
There is at least one person that I saw, was it on Twitter or on the Facebook group, that is on that journey that will also be with us on our cruise. They're doing back-to-back cruises. And so they're actually on the boat already and taunting everyone on the Facebook group saying, I'm here! Ha 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 ha! You all have to wait.
I didn't taunt people. All right. What's the best way to find people to teach me a game and organize games on the cruise? Says Michael.
We probably will have the teacher wanted signs, correct?
Yes, we will. I double-checked on that today. We didn't have them last year, and that was a mistake. We'll have them this year, so you can just sit at a table with a game, put a teacher wanted there. If I'm in the vicinity and I know the game, I will teach it to you, unless it's a really, really long game, in which case I'll pretend I don't see the teacher wanted sign. Hey,
yes, we're always willing to teach stuff. Yeah, I mean, at PAX, I sat down and taught Potion Explosion to a family that was looking to play. I love doing that sort of thing. Get people started in games. If I know, I'll be happy to teach.
Right. Yeah. And really, it's not that hard. I mean, just go around. We're going to really push that people play games with each other and play, in various games and stuff. And like, we're going to have a little bit of a whiteboard there. And so like when I do that Sidereal Confluence, what's it called again?
Sidereal
Confluence game, I'll probably write it on the board. I feel pretty confident that that's a game I'll do. I don't know when I'll do that game. I would say Sunday, but Sunday's a super busy day for me. So we'll figure it out. But it will, if something like that happens, we'll probably play it. There's going to be different things, different events. I'm still working on the event schedule completely. I mean, it's not a lot of events. There's like a few minor events. We do a couple shows there, some game shows.
Do we have maps this year that explain where the different gaming areas are on the ship, helping people find those different places and when those places are open?
No.
Okay.
No, we don't have that, but I have some ideas in place for that. Actually, the main two places to play games are right above each other now, so it doesn't matter.
All right.
Would you be interested in an amusement park based on board games?
Sure.
Yes, I would be. Okay, how about this? Someone says, anything keep you from doing more contests or giveaways? And I can answer this one. They're too much work.
They are a lot of work.
And they don't benefit us. They benefit the company. It's like a free advertisement for that company, and it's work for us. And you're like, does that work? Well, yeah, because to run a contest, we need to do, first of all, we're spending time basically advertising for the company. And then we advertise for the company, and we do some sort of contest for them, and they give out a game, right? Or 2 games. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty cheap advertisement. They give like $60 of games or $80, whatever. And then we have to take like hundreds of emails or whatever it is and figure it out, do a random number, and remember to do it, right? Because we got to remember to do it in each podcast.
Yeah.
We've forgotten to do things before. Announce the winner, make sure the winner gets it. Then the company better send that person the game, or the person will blame us for running the contest. So
yeah, have we ever had one fall through? I mean, we
have
did a lot.
We have, yeah.
And then we've had to sort of make good on it and, give them Dice Tower swag or something. And yeah, I mean, I'd love to do it. It just is a lot of work to do a contest.
Speaking of contests, when Eric first came on, one of the first things he did was he read that mega contest, something that I'll never do again, but at the time I thought was really cool.
It was impressive for sure.
Right, like the winner got so many games.
Yeah. I think it arrived in 3 boxes.
Well, no. It just started arriving like.
Oh, right. They all got sent individually. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find what was in that contest.
Yeah. I think I found that recording when I was looking at stuff.
I need to actually remember a game that was in that.
Oh, boy. It was a lot.
Maybe I used the word mega. I'm using my. All right. Well, whatever. I'll ask another question while I'm looking at it. What was the most memorable, crazy thing from Unplugged?
Memorable, crazy thing. I don't know. Crazy is. I'm not sure if that's the word. I was surprised at the crowd control of PAX. That's not really crazy. But, we're used to the doors opening at Origins, Gen Con, Essen, and this like rush of people just like running for things. And the way that they lined people up, there was a much more orderly trickle of people. Everyone was already lined up in order to get in the doors. And so they'd open the doors and people walked in at a reasonable pace. And so it was busy, yes, but it wasn't like a flood. It was more of a gradual rising tide. But that's not really crazy. Was there any crazy cosplay or something?
I can't think of anything that was really crazy that I saw happening. It was actually a very, very mild convention to some degree. Well, meanwhile, maybe we'll think more on that. Eric, let's see here. Did you start Pandemic Legacy 2 yet?
We have Legacy 2. We started on the prologue and lost. And so I was ready to continue. I'm like, okay, I think we have a sense of it. Let's move on to January. But my son and wife said, no, I'd like to do the prologue again. And we just haven't had a chance to have the family together to play that. We've been doing other family gaming, playing Stuffed Fables, and some other family stuff, but not Pandemic Legacy 2.
You just dropped the Stuffed Fables things. Most people don't even know you have that.
I know. I was planning to talk about Stuffed Fables on the podcast next time because, I don't know, I still want to play some more. We're only 2 chapters in to Stuffed Fables, and so I'd like to get a little farther into the plot before I share any real opinions. But so far, my 6-year-old son loves it. and my 9-year-old as well is really enjoying it, and I'm enjoying it as well. It is a distilled Mice and Mystics.
Well,
It's
we need to know. We need to know. Is it better than Mice and Mystics? That's the thing. We need to know what you think.
it's interesting because I love Mice and Mystics, but I think it has a chance to be better than it as a family game. It's almost like Mice and Mystics was trying to be both a family game and a and also appeal to adult gamers. And while Stuffed Fables, I've played with all adult groups and they've enjoyed it. This one makes no apologies for being a family game. This is really geared toward parent child, uncle child, adult child gaming teams. Just in subject matter, it's about stuffed animals and their little girl. It's really intended to be, I think, played with kids. And so as that, I think it sticks a little closer to that ideal. It's little more streamlined. It has fewer obtuse rules about the way that the bad guys move. It's easier to do things. There's less barriers to, say, moving from point A to point B. Again, that may change farther on in the book, but it feels like a story, a choose your own adventure in which the choices you make are based on your actions on the board. It's very cool, and I want to see more. That was a bit of a tangent.
It's a good tangent. People want to hear about that. Let's see here. Do you need any hand-drawn animation work for segments? Yes,
Ooh.
email me. People are talking about their gateway games. People are hoping that Stuffed Fables is not a letdown.
I don't think it's going to be a letdown. Letdown is not the word for that one. My only reservation right now is that the adventures tend to be a little long. So we've had to save like halfway through. The kids get antsy or it gets to bedtime. But because of the way the adventure book goes, you keep flipping pages. So at one of the page flips, we say, it's getting late. Let's just pack all the stuff, one character's goods into an envelope, a baggie, and we'll just pick it up where we left off. That's very easy to do in this game. But it's hard to do an entire story in one sitting with young kids. But it's easy to work around.
All right. Favorite video game of 2017?
Have I played anything that was made in 2017?
Zelda Breath of the Wild, hands down.
I got to play. My kids got to play that for the first time when their uncle brought his Switch by. I'd love to get.
So do you now feel like you need to own a Switch?
They want one.
Attention? Is it on the Christmas list?
It's on my Christmas list. Yes.
No, it should be on your kids' Christmas.
I
believe right now mine is going through scheduled play.
Yeah, I think if I can argue that it's for the kids, but then I get to play it, that would be pretty cool. I should try that.
Someone said, what's the best way to thank those from the publishers covering the party on Thursday? Is to go up to them, they'll be there, and say, thank you. You don't know who the publishers are? Come ask me. I'll point them out to you.
There you go.
Eric's going to be there.
I will be with my wife.
Eric, would you rather sing from Newsies, Wicket, or Hamilton, or Mary Poppins?
If I had to sing from one of those, I think, oh boy, between Hamilton and Newsies, I'm not sure if I could pull off Hamilton.
Yeah, I don't think you pull off Hamilton either.
Yeah, but Newsies, I could do Newsies.
I would do Mary Poppins, I think. Neither of us could do Wicket. We can't reach those notes.
Yeah,
come on now. No one can
can't defy gravity like that.
All these are very impressive singing across the board. Let's see. Eric, who are your top? Well, no, we'll do that. Let's see. No, because that's like a top 10 list stuff.
Top 10, save that for later.
Here. I hope Eric got some of the Hershey bar at PAX. Really bummed I didn't get a chance to chat with him.
You guys stole that away before I got any of it. But I still have some Essen candy, so don't feel too bad.
First of all, wasn't feeling bad. Secondly, It's in my fridge right now. Totally whole. Haven't shared it with anybody yet. We're
Oh,
saving it.
okay.
I don't know why
You
we're
have to like
saving
hit
it.
it with a hammer and break it up into pieces.
You know what it was? We got all that pie from Thanksgiving Day. So we're kind of calmed down. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jason. But Eric's not getting any. Maybe I'll bring it up to the cruise and give it some to Eric there.
Well, there you go.
It broke in the suitcase anyway.
Oh.
I mean, it like broke in 3 pieces. I mean, I'm just gonna eat one of the pieces. Hey Tom, notice nothing personal wasn't in your top 160. Well, that's because I don't put my own games in my top games.
There you go.
That'd be super weird.
Yeah. I was a guest on the podcast This Game is Broken for an upcoming episode, and your Nothing Personal game showed up in one of the games we played.
Yay! I'm sure that's a
Yay.
good thing. All right, let's see here. We'll take a couple more questions and then shut this down. Let's see. Again, let's see. Boogity, boogity, boogity. We haven't played the new Time Stories. Did we enjoy our time at PAX Unplugged? Yes. Should we have talked about that? I feel like we haven't talked about that yet. Or did we talk about that? We talked about that on the podcast.
We did a show about PAX Unplugged. I think in general we enjoyed it. We're hoping. Have they announced dates for next year yet, or is that still up in the air?
For what?
For PAX Unplugged.
If they haven't announced it, the buzz is that it's the first week of December. The very, very strong buzz on that one.
Okay.
A Mario Kart tourney going on the cruise? No, I'm not bringing my Switch into cruise. Well, maybe I will, actually. But I'm not bringing it out for the public. If I bring it, it's just to keep the kids entertained. But the kids just have so much fun on the cruise. I don't think it would be a problem. So, what did you do for Thanksgiving? Do you have anyone over?
We traveled. I went up to Hingham, Massachusetts to have dinner with my sister and her husband, and the whole family was there. And then we all sort of migrated down to Vernon, Connecticut to do a family game day where we played all sorts of stuff with my brothers at my brother's house. So it was a nice, relaxing, filling, fun weekend.
I continued my tradition of not playing games on Thanksgiving.
Wow.
I don't know what it is. It just doesn't happen. I think we're just thankful for games, and we all take a break from them that day.
I mean, you are surrounded by them. I mean, I'm surrounded by them as well, but I relish the opportunity to get together with family and play some of these party games I don't always get a chance to play, and try out some of the gateway style games with them. So yeah, I always look forward to. We always do a Black Friday game day. It's sort of a family.
Well, we didn't do a Black Friday. We did the Saturday after we did a game day, and so that's when I played. We played a lot of games. But yeah, I had Sam and Z and Kenny and Vernon and Derek all came over with their families. So, wow. And I fried some turkeys and ate some key lime pie. I nice. Challenge anybody to beat that fried turkey key lime pie. There's nothing beats that.
Okay.
All right, folks. Well, that's an hour. That means our time is up. And so we'll be back in 2 weeks. Moving back to Wednesdays, probably. Because
we're going to try to, yeah.
Well, I don't know. 2 weeks is the...
We'll be just back from the cruise.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So, anywho, we'll be back for sure. And there's a podcast going up tomorrow morning, Mandy and Suzanne.
Yes.
So go ahead and listen to that on the podcast. And then me and Eric and Mandy and Suzanne and Sam and Z and Jason will all be back on our live show that we record at the Dice Tower Cruise, which hopefully will be recorded properly.
Fingers crossed.
If not, we blame Eric.
Great.
So that's how it works. Anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been watching Dice Tower Tonight.
Thanks for watching. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. If all goes well, Tom and I will see you in 2 weeks, hopefully Wednesday, for another installment. Our show is sponsored by viewers like you. Thank you. Dice Tower Tonight is produced by Tom and me with assistance from Derek Porter and Rob Searing. Our fantasy story, in which Timmy, the very hungry bird, defeats the evil lycanthrope, provided by One Night Owl Tim8 Werewolf. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at coolstuffinc.com. Give us your feedback on the Dice Tower Guild at Board Game Geek on Facebook or Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network. Find something new at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all of us at the Dice Tower, have fun.